The entire narrative around the Boston Bruins have changed after being a selling team going into last year's trade deadline. The Boston Bruins, on the backs of performances from Jeremy Swayman, have completely flipped this narrative and have went out to be the most dominant team in the entire NHL. We're going to break down key details on exactly why the Boston Bruins are flipping the switch and changing everyone's minds heading into a season that people thought they were selling. We're going to break down all this and so much more in this episode. You're not going to want to miss it. So, Darius, let's go straight into it today. Where we did see last offseason, or sorry, the trade deadline, we've seen the Boston Bruins make a lot of selling moves, trading Brad Marchand to the Florida Panthers, and coming out of the gates, the Boston Bruins 3-0 to start the year with absolutely ridiculous stats that we're going to break down. What is your initial thoughts before we get into a couple of key details on the Boston Bruins flipping this narrative completely?
Yeah, I think a lot of people coming into this season thought that it's a write-off. The Boston Bruins are going to miss the playoffs, but I don't know if that's so true. And they've started off hot. They're 3-0 to start the season, and it looks like they could be back. Their style of play is back. They have a new permanent head coach as well. We're going to get into that. And, they're missing Brad Marchand, like you said. Like, the team looks very different, but they have a lot of really good pieces still, right? And now Fraser Minten has made the team as a third line center. He looks great. He had an overtime winner the other night. So they look like they could be back at this point, and they could be making some noise in the Atlantic and the Eastern Conference. So the Atlantic division is a very tough division. If the Bruins are in fact back, you got the Lightning in the mix this year. The Panthers have started off 3-0 as well. The Toronto Maple Leafs are going to be one of the best teams in this division. Montreal made the playoffs last year. Ottawa made the playoffs last year. This is a tough division. That's not to mention the Buffalo Sabres, who are looking to be a little bit better, but ultimately won't make the playoffs this year. But it seems like the Bruins are taking steps forward very quickly after, like you mentioned, they sold off at last year's trade deadline. They're, youthful, and they have a lot of really good pieces still. So I think that they are going to continue to make noise this year. And as much as I would love to write them off, because I am not a Bruins fan, if you've made it this far in the video, if you thought I was, no, I'm definitely not, but I can appreciate what they've done for the last 20 years or so at this point. I can definitely appreciate that, first of all, and the way they're able to bounce back after having a season like last year and selling off. The other interesting thing we should talk about in this video as well, and we're going to get to it, is Jeremy Swayman and the effect of him starting in training camp is going to have on this team.
And I think the biggest thing with the Boston Bruins, not only are they 3-0, but there's so many details that are absolutely ridiculous. You see the penalty kill is at 100%. Yes, the power play percentage could be a little bit higher, but the biggest thing is the Boston Bruins are playing their style of hockey. They're going out, they're shutting down opponents, they're being hard to play against, they're winning these gritty games. And I think this is exactly what Bruins fans were wanting to see last season. Obviously, it did not work out. You had some injuries, you traded Brad Marchand, but the big thing is so many guys are standing out. Elias Lindholm coming in after a bit of a down year last year, coming from the Vancouver Canucks. We see him absolutely red hot to start this season, coming out firing all guns as that first line center with 4 points. Darius, with this team, yes, you have star talent. You have Pasta on the team. That's debatably one of the best goal scorers in the NHL, but what is your thoughts on a group with a lot of players having a bounce back, Lindholm being one? We need to see Casey Middlestat take the next jump. Do you think this is a team that is deep enough to continue the hot streak, or do you think at some point maybe they flame out a tiny bit?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Of course, they started hot, and there's a lot of teams that I think, will make the playoffs that have not started great, right, around the league. And we were all expecting Florida to kind of stumble out of the gate because of their injuries. That's not the case. So it's still very early, but I think the Bruins are showing signs that they want to compete this year, and they never ever called it a rebuild, right? And they added a couple pieces as well. And you brought in, or you brought up Middlestat, right? He's got to be really good. They still have Zach on the team, who's an underrated player in the league. Lindholm has to be that guy for this team. And like you mentioned, he is bouncing back, but they added a few players that I think are very interesting. And the third line specifically, if you're looking at it right now, you have Fraser Minten there, who made the team. He is a really, really good two-way center, and he's showing it already, and he's ready for the league. They signed Tanner Jeannot in an interesting move, but he makes them tough to play against, right? And then you have Mikey Eyssimont as well, who I think was a really good pickup. This is a guy that, has gotten better year after year after year in the NHL. So I really like that. If you look through the lineup, in theory, I think this could be a playoff team if they continue to produce. And sometimes the scariest teams to me are not the guys or the teams with the top end talent that then go make a move at the trade deadline. It's the teams that have good enough talent, they're playing really well, and they come together as a team. Those are the most dangerous teams. And when you look at the defense too, Lindholm's out right now, right? They're missing Hampus Lindholm right now, so they're not even full strength on the back end. They have Zadorov, who needs to be better. Mason Lohrei is a great young defenseman as well. So the defense is not super strong or anything like that, but then you have Jeremy Swayman back there, who is one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. I think missing training camp really messed up his season last year, and he looks like he's going to be really good again this season and back to, his regular form. And I think that's going to be a deciding factor for the Bruins this year too, because goaltending wasn't great last year, and I feel like this is a team that goes with their goaltending to a degree and always kind of has, right? If their goaltending is really good, that the rest of the team feeds off it. And personally, the way I look at, teams in the NHL or any league, right, in this sport, everything goes through your goaltender. If your goaltender's playing with confidence and you have confidence in your goaltender, the team's going to mimic that. It's going to mirror that, and you're going to play well. So pretty interesting stuff for the Bruins so far. I know it's early, but man, nobody scored on them yet on the penalty kill. It's pretty impressive stuff.
And I think the big thing is, too, looking at the defensive game, the biggest thing with the Bruins, they've always had rough and tough defense. And bring in Zadorov, and yes, he's not going to go out and put up a lot of points. Yes, you give him a big contract, but he's really proving that he's the type of guy that no one wants to play against. You look at Swayman getting that huge extension, not playing good last year, but coming in, dominating this season so far. Like you said, I do believe that missing training camp last year was a big thing on it. Players want to get in the groove. They have their routines. Missing out on this, it's a huge thing, but I think with the Bruins, with everyone stepping up, I do want to go back to Lindholm because I think his numbers are a lot better than people were expecting. You can see over the 3 games, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 total points. He's playing just under 18 minutes. Your first line center locked up for a long term. Seeing a bounce back is awesome, but he does more than just go out to put up over a point per game. We're seeing Lindholm throwing hits, 70% on the faceoffs. This guy is incredible when he's on. The Bruins are gelling. Darius, this is the big thing. The Bruins were a team that a lot of people expected were going to be sellers. We've seen the reports that Zacha is a player a lot of teams are reaching out on. Mittelstadt was a name they're dangling. Do you think with this hot start has completely flipped management's mind to say, hey, maybe we're not going to be sellers. We might not be buyers, but we're going to make a push for the playoffs?
They want to make a push for the playoffs. They've never, ever called this a rebuild. And fans have been saying, what are you talking about? We need to rebuild. There's a large portion of the fan base that's saying this team needs a rebuild. And they've never, ever said that. They said that there's a lot of players that we've invested a lot of money into on this squad that need to play better, like a Lindholm, like you've been bringing up, who has started the season strong. So if he continues to do that, I think they'll be okay. And I think they could actually make the playoffs with their style of play and what this organization expects out of this team. And I think, having like a guy like Minten in there is a very, interesting thing, right? He's a guy with a lot of energy. He wants to make an impact and he wants to continue to get better. And having that youth in the lineup, I think will be a good thing for this team. So that was a good get too. Again, it hurts you on defense a little bit to a degree, but Carlo hasn't had the best stint in Toronto either. So that's it's looking like a very good trade for the Boston Bruins at that point in time. So it's pretty interesting. Again, they've never called it a rebuild. I think management has always wanted to try and make the playoffs again. I think there was a couple factors like Swayman missing training camp, some injury stuff last year, the fact that they recognized where they were, at the time and started selling off pieces that a lot of people believe that, okay, they're in a rebuild mode now, but management's never said it. I think a portion of the fan base wants this team to be competitive. And I think that, with this start, you're off to a hot start. If you can get to Thanksgiving in a good spot, in a playoff spot, you will be well off, I think. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they do the rest of the way, but I would not count them out in the Atlantic just yet, as a lot of people, especially not Bruins fans, are doing right now.
But I mean, Bruins fans, what is your thoughts on this? Do you think this is the team that's going to continue the hot streak? Yes, they'll eventually let in a goal on the penalty kill, but do you think this Bruins team is going to make a push? Would you like them to be sellers come deadline, buyers, or stay where they're to at the moment? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments. While you're down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends so we can keep you up to date on everything to do around the NHL. But I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, Darius, and take care.